It all began with a date. Annabel was preparing, putting on her best dress and makeup, hoping to make a good impression. She arrived at the hotel, full of anticipation, only to find Denis was nowhere to be found. She waited for what felt like hours, and just as her hope was fading, he finally showed up. He apologized profusely for being late, and the two managed to salvage the evening. Their connection was instant. Soon after, Annabel took Denis to her house. The very next morning, he was the picture of a perfect partner, completely in love. He would wake her with a gentle kiss and the news that he had already prepared breakfast for her. He went the extra mile, cleaning the entire house without being so as asked. When Annabel tried to stop him, he simply said he was doing it all for love. She found herself falling for him more and more each day. One morning, before heading to her busy job, Annabel asked Denis to take her clothes to the dry cleaner. She planned to handle them when she got back. But Denis had other ideas. He didn't just take them to the cleaner, he washed them himself, even her delicate panties. When she returned home that evening, she found a spotless house, a prepared dinner, and a smiling Denis. She was amazed. No man had ever taken care of her like this. He told her he did it all because he loved her. But behind the scenes, Denis visited his friend Felicia. He confessed he was genuinely falling for Annabel. Felicia, however, was quick to warn him. She reminded him, in no uncertain terms, to stick to the plan. Later that week, Annabel presented Denis with an opportunity. A client was waiting for a delivery, but her company was short-staffed and the driver was unavailable. She asked if he could do it. Denis agreed without a second thought. His mission was to deliver the goods and return with a check for a staggering $10 million. Blissfully unaware, Annabel gushed about Denis to her best friend, Hellen. She told her how he took care of the house and showered her with affection. But Hellen was suspicious. She warned Annabel that Denis seemed too good to be true, that he might be pretending, and that she should be more careful. When Helen's house was under renovation, she came to stay with Annabel. As they were talking one evening, Denis walked in, mission accomplished. He had delivered the goods and handled the transaction perfectly. Annabel was overjoyed and proudly introduced him to Hellen. She even had more good news. The client was so impressed that, as a sign of gratitude, she was offering to buy Denis a car. He was ecstatic, but Hellen watched on, unable to believe what she was seeing. Denis immediately went back to Felicia, boasting that their plan was working perfectly. He told her they just needed to be patient, and soon everything would be theirs. Hellen, true to her concerns, went back to Annabel with another warning. She insisted Denis was just earning her trust to take everything from her. Annabel dismissed her fears entirely, revealing that she had already agreed to their engagement. Not long after, Annabel had to travel for a business meeting. Denis begged her to fly, saying the roads were too dangerous, and even offered to go with her. But Annabel insisted on going alone and by road, explaining that she wanted to visit her parents along the way. Later, Hellen confronted Denis directly, telling him she didn't trust him and that he couldn't fool her. Denis put on a convincing act, claiming he truly loved Annabel and would do anything for her. In the middle of their tense conversation, Denis received a phone call from a hospital. They rushed there to discover Annabel had been in a serious accident. The doctor delivered devastating news. The accident had damaged her eyes, and she would never see again. Denis appeared heartbroken. The love of his life was blind. They took her home, and Denis made a solemn promise. He would be there for her, he would be her eyes, and he would never leave or give up on her. He was meticulous in his care, washing her, brushing her hair. Seeing this unwavering loyalty, a vulnerable Annabel made a monumental decision. She gave him control of her company. Since she could no longer see, she made him the CEO, empowering him to run it as he saw fit. Denis was triumphant. He went straight to Felicia with the news. Their long-term plan was finally coming to fruition. Everything was almost theirs, though they agreed they needed a little more time to take it all. Annabel, meanwhile, had a private talk with Helen. She knew Helen wouldn't be happy about Denis running the company, but she had a critical request. She needed Helen to be her eyes. She asked her to monitor everything Denis did at the company, but without interfering. Helen agreed, assuring her friend she would watch over everything. Days later, Helen returned to Annabel with a report. Denis was manipulating the company accounts, but Annabel refused to believe it. She defended him, stating that Mr. Michael was in charge of the accounts, and if anyone was manipulating them, it was him. She told Helen to stop bringing her false reports, to instead help Denis grow the company, and to watch him, not snoop on him. Emboldened, Denis brought Felicia to the house. Annabel, relying on her hearing, could sense a presence but saw nothing. Helen watched as Felicia went into Denis's bedroom. When he realized he'd been caught, Denis begged Helen not to say a word. He then went to Annabel with a bold move. He told her he had fired Mr. Michael, claiming he was an obstacle in the accounts department and wasn't aligning with his new vision for the company. Since she had given him the power to make positive changes, he said he was hiring someone new who shared his direction. That someone was Felicia. Helen tried to warn Annabel, but her mind was already made up. Helen then went to Denis with an ultimatum. She asked why he was lying and cheating on Annabel and warned him she would tell everything, but her warning was a ruse. What she really wanted was to be included in the plan. She had always wanted Denis for herself, and this was her opportunity. She told him that since Annabel refused to listen to her warnings, she would now take the opportunity to scam her too. Denis told Felicia to lie low while he dealt with this new complication. Helen was becoming a problem. So Helen and Denis began working together, manipulating the accounts and presenting the false documents to Annabel. Blind, she believed everything they told her. They grew brazen, kissing and touching inappropriately right in front of her, knowing she couldn't see. Annabel, often tired, would frequently ask Denis to take her to her room. After he tucked her in, he would return to the living room to be with Helen. The situation became even more complicated when Annabel's cousin, Ralph, came to stay. Annabel explained to him that her eyes were damaged from the accident. Unfazed, Denis and Helen continued their affair. Ralph almost caught them kissing once, and then things escalated. He walked in and saw them having sex. He immediately went and told Annabel. She was shattered. The man she loved and her best friend were betraying her in the worst way. She had done everything to make him happy, and this was how he repaid her. Then another call came. Denis was told Annabel had been in a second accident, and this one had interfered with her brain. The doctors said she would never be normal again. Annabel was now severely disabled. Saliva would run from her mouth like water, and her body would shiver uncontrollably. Denis, in his cruelty, even thought of suffocating her with a pillow to end it. Finally, the day arrived. Denis was supposed to go to the bank and collect a massive sum of money, but the bank manager refused. He insisted that Annabel had to be present for such a large withdrawal. Denis returned home in a furious rage. He found Helen patiently wiping saliva from Annabel's face. As he ranted about what had happened at the bank, something unbelievable occurred. Annabel began to speak, and then she stood up. They were shocked into silence. All this time she had been pretending to be blind, pretending to be partially disabled. She revealed that she had grown suspicious of Denis after Helen's initial warnings, but her trust was truly shattered when Helen joined him. She had staged both accidents to expose them. Denis, his entire plan crumbling before him, was consumed with rage. He lunged at Annabel, his hands aiming for her throat to strangle her. But Ralph was there. He rushed in and pulled Denis away, and as they struggled, the police, whom Annabel had called before her revelation, swarmed in. Denis and Helen were arrested for conspiracy and attempted fraud, their wicked plan finally meeting its end.